Hello everyone, I'm going to try to be pleasant, and I'm sorry if I've been unpleasant in some of my recent posts. I can't help it. I'm just an artist and I just can't help it. I cannot control my impulses sometimes when I'm communicating to people. That is something I think that marks an artist. An artist is someone who just lets go. He doesn't hold anything in. Someone asked me the other day how to sing. He wanted to know how you do it. And I told him, it's not so much about your vocal cords as it is about the kind of person you are. A singer, a good singer, is someone who lets go, someone who isn't afraid to let go. And in our society, we're all so bottled up, we're all so on guard all the time. We're afraid of showing our true feelings. We're afraid of truly being ourselves in front of other people. We're always afraid of betraying some kind of secret that they're going to use against us. And I do notice that when people sing, that quite often that there's something holding them back from really letting go and expressing the music through their heart when they're singing. Like for instance, the way Nickelback sang Nonchalant. It's a good example, the way that guy sang that song. He just was too afraid to really let go and just lose himself. He was, through the whole thing, it was like he was too afraid to show any emotions that might make him look like he wasn't cool or something. But it is cool. It's totally cool to let your emotions go when you're in a song as a singer. And I'd say that's probably the most important thing to do. Just let go and let those feelings just come out in your music. Don't be afraid to sing loud. Don't be afraid to let that emotion out. And it will make a more impressive vocal performance. And this is what being an artist is all about. It's all about just having no valve at all on your emotions. They just all pour out. And of course it doesn't just happen in music, it happens in everything. As you can see in my blogs, that I'm one of these people that is just an open book, and I always will be like that. Because I'm an artist and I express myself. It's the way God made me. And I just can't help it. And of course I have nothing to hide either from people. So I just let it out. I'm not ashamed of anything. So I can just let it all out. But that wasn't the reason why I wanted to share this post today. It was because I was speaking to one of the people in the house. And I have a very small circle here that I talk to. But even in that tiny little circle, there are still signs of how the broadcasters are mishandling the story of the fraud with my work. And the way they are mishandling it now, I think, is by trying to cover over it with this new smutty scandal involving these stars and their offenses against underage women on some island somewhere. Smut. Pure smut. I think it's to their advantage to cover over the scandal of the fraud with my work that seems to have involved every star in Hollywood and every producer and every person in broadcasting in favor of this more localized scandal that just involves a few stars and their own bad decisions. And of course, leaves them free and clear to point the finger at them and look innocent themselves. The last time I think they applied this strategy was in the last presidential election. I recently took out that video, Putin's Revenge Again, that PBS video, Putin's Revenge. Have you seen it yet? it shows you how the media operate. The scandal that was supposed to break on the eve of the election was not about Donald Trump being in a locker room. It was about how these WikiLeaks that were making the Democrats look so bad were largely furnished by the efforts of Russian agents in the employ of Vladimir Putin, because Putin wanted the Republicans to win the election. I know that sounds strange when you think of Reagan and how anti-communist he was, how anti-Russian he was, but now that things have changed a little bit, now the Russians actually appreciate the Republicans more than the Democrats, because the Republicans are less likely to question countries like Russia on their human rights. The Republicans are really just concerned with business and money, and this makes Vladimir Putin feel safe with respect to his human rights record. So Putin wanted, according to this documentary, Putin wanted the Republicans to win. The Democrats, especially Hillary Clinton, had done some harm to him, he felt, and he wanted revenge. But he didn't think, according to this documentary again, he didn't think they'd win, but they did win, and they won on the strength of these WikiLeaks, which would not have been available for people to see if it weren't for the efforts of Putin and his agents, again, according to this documentary. If this is all true, then what happened was there was a big scandal, but it was the kind of scandal that might rock the establishment itself, that might even get President Obama in trouble, although he in the end did decide to back up this story himself about the Putin leaks. And what happened was they finally agreed to break this story in the news, that the source of these leaks were actually Russian in nature, and that they were intended to tilt the scales of the election in favor of the Republicans. But then the media decided that it was a better story to put another smut scandal on top of that one, which was this silly scandal about these locker room remarks that were made by Trump ages ago, when he had no idea that he was even probably going to get into politics, and frankly was just really what looked to me like an innocent exchange in a locker room that should have just been kept private, and was just simply blown out of all proportion in the newspapers to make him look bad on the eve of the election. Why was that? Why did they do that? On the surface it looks like they did it to hurt Trump, but since Trump ended up winning the election, maybe it wasn't done to hurt Trump, maybe it was done to help Trump. Because what they did when they put that smut scandal on top of this more political scandal involving Putin and the leaks was that they covered over the scandal with a smut scandal. A smut scandal that would go away in time. And a smut scandal that would make people forget the story of the leaks and the source of the leaks, so that when these leaks were again prevalent on the web, which was just hours before the election, they just flood the internet again with more of these WikiLeaks. Nobody can remember that these WikiLeaks are coming from another country. They're coming from a foreign power, because all they can remember of a scandal is that Donald Trump was in a locker room talking to a basketball player. So these leaks that were intended to hurt the Democrats were effective, because the only scandal they had on Trump had been changed from the leak scandal to something else. So then the Putin leaks were effective then. They not only hurt the Democrats, but they totally wiped out this other scandal of his words that he had with a basketball player about women, and helped him to win the election. I'm not sure myself whether Trump needed Putin to win the election. Quite honestly, I can't be 100% on that. Maybe Trump did win the election strictly on his merits as a candidate. And by the way, I don't want to upset anybody if they're happy with Donald Trump now. People do seem to be very happy with him, and that's great. That's great, that's fine. But what I'm talking about here is the media and how they operate. This is how they operate. They have two scandals that they can break to the public, but one of them leaves them in the clear, you see. Or one of them is just more politically acceptable to them than the other one. So they basically they choose one over the other, and the one that they choose ends up eclipsing the other one, of course. So when you were supposed to learn about this, these WikiLeaks, where they were coming from, instead you were handed a story about Trump. It was another story that made Trump look bad, but it was more of a smut scandal and kind of more frivolous story overall, something that might blow over in time. Whereas these political problems are far more serious. And then, how ironic that it was WikiLeaks, it appears to be WikiLeaks that did tilt the scale at the end of the election. Though I can't be 100% on that, to be quite honest with you. I can't be 100% on that. Still, that's how the media operate. They use they have a scandal of their own waiting that they can use at the right time to cover over something else that they don't want people to know. So my guess is that the media didn't want people to know that these WikiLeaks were Russian in origin, not American. And that they wanted Trump to win the election. That's a guess. That's a guess. And now here we have this now we can take my scandal that I bring to your attention. Okay, look at the list of violators I have there. I'm going to include it underneath this video today in my blog. Do you see the name of a US president there? Do you see the name of a major defense contractor there? These are high-profile people. This is the kind of scandal that rocks the very establishment. The scandal with my work. The song Bird of Prey. The song Bird of Prey. Where is it? Bird of Prey. I'll find it here. I'll find it here quickly if I can. Length list. It'll be there in alphabetical order. Bird of Prey. Let's see if I got my thing plugged in. For nothing but ashes. This song here. Whoops, I missed the heavy part. We'll just leave this playing in the background here to help give this context while I speak. This song, Bird of Prey, people are not really listening closely enough to this song. It's a perfect example of fraud with my work that rocks the very establishment. Your bird of prey is a weapon of war that defends your country. It's a now. So this isn't just about who wrote the work. It's also about the defense establishment of the United States of America, this fraud with my work. And, you know, you voted, sorry for the I swore I wouldn't use it today. George W. Bush was your president for 2 terms. This man who helped himself to my blogs when he was campaigning in 2004 for re-election. So this is something, this is a crime that rocks your very establishment. And if they have a choice, if they have 2 star scandals that they can report, one of them makes the establishment look bad, makes the broadcasters look bad, along with all the stars. But the other one just makes a few stars look bad and leaves everybody else in the clear. Then they will choose the second one over the first one, which is what they've done here in this Lolita Express story now. They are using this smutty story to give you a scandal with stars that leaves them in the clear, leaves them innocent, and preserves the image of their defense industry and all that. That's the only reason they're handing you this story. Because it's more because what it doesn't tell you than what it does tell you. So that's what I'm up against here. The fraud with my work was so big, so huge, that they can't even report it to you. That they just can never admit it to report. This is the kind of story that they would, like they did with, like they do with certain things, they lock it up and they don't let anybody look at the files for 100 years. But here I am now, I have to live my life now. I can't wait 100 years for you to know the truth about it. I want to get on with my life now. And I want to live in truth now. I don't want to have to die and then be resurrected 100 years later as someone who told the truth in his own time. If I can help it, I'd rather try to be able to live in truth now while I'm still here on the earth. Now, I don't think that you have to wipe me out and wipe out all the truth of all this work when it's so huge. I don't think it's necessary to do that. It would be if I was the kind of person who wanted to hurt your establishment, wanted to be a threat to your national security. But I don't. I don't want to be a threat to your national security. Do you want to know why they took this song? Because it's a great song, and because they probably know that I actually admire fighter plane pilots. I admire fighter pilots. And I have a great love for airplanes. I love airplanes. I've always loved them. I'm like a little boy when it comes to airplanes. So I have this, you don't need to turn me into some kind of a threat to your establishment. We can tell the truth about all this, and I would let you have that song for your airplane. All I wanted was to be the person who wrote the song, because I am the person who wrote that song. And that's just one example out of many, many examples. I don't want to threaten your establishment. I don't want to threaten your national security. I just want to write my work and be the person who, and be known as the person who wrote it, and make whatever I reward, get whatever profits I can from it, I guess. But I don't want to hurt your establishment. I don't think it would hurt your establishment to tell the truth about this. On the contrary, I think it would help your establishment, because then we could trust your establishment. Any establishment that could own up to the crime is going to have the trust of the people like it never had that trust before. And I'm giving you the chance now, you in the establishment, you in the defense industry, to come clean on this and I'm giving you amnesty right now in this video, just like the library does with overdue books. If you give me my overdue credit now for my work, if you admit I'm the author of my work now, there will be nothing, no further, no action taken against you. There will be no on my part. I will do nothing against you on my part except thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me to be able to live my life in truth while there's still a few years left of it to live. And anything's better for me than having to keep hearing from my very tiny circle of friends how much they love and admire people who stole my property and got rich with it. Just today, someone told me how funny Mike Myers was when he was playing out the part of me and Mini-Me in his fraud movie made out of my comedy blogs and my cartoons. Austin Powers. Austin Powers started as a guest on the Don't Steal show. I already said this. I described him in words, gave the full description: thick English glasses, bad teeth, Louis XIV attire, British accent. The whole idea was that how could a spy be this flamboyant? The whole idea of the Don't Steal show is that the guests are disappointing. I'm sure you know that by now if you've read a few of them. And this was the first guest on the Don't Steal show. He's important to me. He was my first guest. He was the first guest I dreamed up for that show. A long time ago now, way back in 2006, when I first started writing these talk shows type dialogues on the internet. It hurt me, to hear him say that, remember Mike Myers, he was so funny when he did this Me and Mini-Me, because I invented those characters. I invented me. I invented Mini-Me. I invented them for a James Bond parody that I wrote sometime around 2006, 2007. I was parodying James Bond, and I can't recall the title of it anymore. It would have been something like Goldmember, or The Spy Who Shagged Me, or something like that. But I did invent those characters. I didn't invent the description, the physical description, but I did invent the name and the concept of those characters, me and Mini-Me, which were used on the Austin Powers movie. My guess is that he got the idea for the physical description from my Austin Power strip that I had up on the web. There is one of the characters there, one of the supervillains, whose name is Ramses, has a bald head and vaguely resembles the me of the Austin Powers movies. One thing, I hate doing this, it always ends up hurting me, but I must do it. I want to live in truth. I have to admit that Mike Myers was he really did do a splendid job of acting out those characters. He did a brilliant job. He was obviously deeply invested in those characters and practically turned himself into those characters just from the force of his performance. But all I'm saying is that he wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't dream them up first. That's all I'm saying. But he did do a splendid job. I'll give him more credit than he ever gave me. He did a great job with those characters. He's a very skilled, very talented actor. It's just such a pity to still be hurt by that crime now. It's 2019 and this Austin Powers thing started in 2007. But that's what happens when this scandal that you're trying to break around your property that was stolen from you threatens the very establishment and the very defense industry of the United States of America. And if you are the focus of that scandal expect yourself to end up like I am, in the middle of a freaking desert.